Hello and welcome to the Bhagavatam. In the previous episode, we'd been talking about how Krishna met with the residents of Vrindavan in Kurukshetra. This is before the Mahabharat war took place. This is before many of the things happened between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. That is where well, it's a long history. I talked about it in the previous episodes, but yes, just be aware that it was well before the Mahabharat battle took place and before the exile of the Pandavas into the forest. So this is at Kurukshetra. This is near Gurgaon. There was some lakes by Parshuram, who had created them after he killed all of the Kshatriyas thousands of years earlier. So this is a period now in history, which is around 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. And when Krishna was on the planet, he had just met with all his family members from Vrindavan. This is where he grew up. And now a number of sages had come. Sages are the wise people. They are the highly evolved beings, right? Rishis, sadhus. So the scene is this. They're at Kurukshetra. They've come for this solar eclipse. And they've just finished meeting with Krishna, the men, the women. The women are now talking amongst themselves. The men are talking amongst themselves, and a number of great sages are arriving there, all of them eager to see Krishna and Balaram. The names of these sages you may have heard in the Bhagavatam, in the Vedas, in different texts. They're often talked about. Sages such as Devala and Asita, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Parshuram and his disciples, Vashishta, Brighu, Pulastya, and Kashyap, Atri, Markandeya, Brihaspati, and the four Kumaras, Angira, Agastya, Yajnavalka. So yes, we had quite a lot of them arrive. And as soon as they saw the sages approaching, the kings who had assembled in this area, this is for the ceremonies that would be conducted during the solar eclipse, the kings and other gentlemanly people and the ladies who had been seated immediately stood up, including Krishna and Balaram. They all went and bowed down to the sages who were honored throughout the universe. So now you see there's a culture in the Vedic era, this is at that period of time, where there was great honor and respect given to people who were wise. These people wanted nothing, and yet they were given everything. And whatever they were given, they would give away in charity because they wanted nothing. The respect given to the sadhus and the rishis was so immense that even a king would get up from their throne and make the sadhu, the wise person, sit on the throne and wash their feet and drink the water off that. They were given all kinds of foods and all kinds of wonderful things. They would be served hand and foot in that sense. So Krishna and Balaram and the other kings and leaders properly worshiped the sages by offering them words of greeting, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense, and sandalwood paste. This culture is very important to understand because one who honors the sages, those who are dear to God, honors God. They are his representatives. They carry him within their heart. They are focused on him. They are dedicated, devoted to him. So one who honors such sadhus, such rishis, such sages, honors God through them. After the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, whose transcendental body protects dharma, addressed them in the midst of that great assembly. So it's a number of things to note over here. Number one, Krishna is mentioned as the Supreme Lord. Yet he bows down to these sages. How is that? Why is that? Why would God bow down to some people, even if they're very highly evolved beings? Because that is Vedic culture. That even when the Supreme Lord himself incarnates on this earth, and even when the sages know that they are nothing in comparison to him, that is the etiquette. And so Krishna has come to this earth playing the role of a human being. It says very clearly here that his transcendental body protects dharma. A transcendental body, what does that mean? We have a physical body. We have a material body. That body is made of skin and bone and blood and all the ingredients that go into a body. That is not the case when Krishna comes. When Krishna comes to this earth, he looks 16 years old even when he is 100 years old. He never ages. He is not subject to birth or death or old age or disease. He never gets sick. You never hear of Krishna getting in any way. Well, there's one incident where he fakes sickness just to test his devotees. And he says at that time, the only thing that will cure me is the dust of the feet, of your feet, right? This is an act of great humility. Someone who gives the dust of their feet to someone, or someone who touches the feet of someone, that is an act of tremendous humility. In India, you will see they will touch the feet of the elders, of the Guru, and certainly of God. That is a sign of tremendous, heartfelt respect. So further than touching the feet is taking the dust of the feet. So he says, if someone gives me the dust of their feet, I will become well. Everybody says, no, this is a great offense. Oh, we cannot do this. It will be a great aparadh, an offense to God, for us to give him the dust of our feet. In fact, he is the worshipable person. We take the dust of his feet. We are nothing. We are just the servants. We are just individual souls, jiva. How can we do this? So finally, no one is willing, and then Krishna tells Narad, go to the gopis of Vrindavan and ask them. And when he goes to ask them, Narad flies over there, as he can do easily. They say anything. If Krishna is sick and he needs the dust of our feet, if he wants anything, our finger, our heart, or whatever, it's all for him. And so they gladly give him the dust of their feet, because their relationship, there is no awe and respect. They don't see him as God. They see him as their worshipful, their beloved, the person who they will give their life for, the person who they'll do anything for. His happiness is their happiness, and that is the true marker of love. That is the true indicator of someone who is highly evolved. That complete surrender, that complete state of wanting the happiness of the beloved. That is where the gopis were at. And so they happily gave him the dust of their feet. So now when the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose transcendental body protects dharma. See, he comes within this earth to do this one task, to protect dharma. Dharma is not just religion. Dharma is a way of life. India does not have a religion per se. There are many religions in the world, and religions are essentially ways of living life. Dharma is also that. It's a way of living life. But it's not a belief system, and that's why we say it's not a religion. It's not a faith system. It's not a belief system. It's a system that is based on practical processes. And those processes give practical results. For example, through meditation, one is able to quiet the mind. In quieting the mind, one is able to experience the presence of God within oneself and all around one. So it's practical. And by experiencing God, you no longer need to believe in God. Just as much as if I have experienced what a sunset is, I don't need to believe in a sunset. I may have to believe in Santa Claus because I've never seen a real Santa Claus. I've seen all the fake ones. But I need to believe that there's, or not believe, whatever. But the moment you believe, there is also the question of not believing. But when you experience something, I know fire is hot. I don't need to believe it. And I don't need someone to tell me they don't believe it because I've experienced it. So similarly, the Sanatana Dharma system, the eternal Dharma, is about learning a way of life that is based on the systems of nature, the systems of the universe, the systems that are best for our body, our mind, our spirit. Those which, and best is defined by those which elevate us towards God. That is the purpose of Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is the eternal Dharma because it talks about the very nature of life, the very nature of who we are, and shows us how to elevate ourselves. Okay, so Krishna comes to protect Dharma. The Supreme Lord himself comes to protect this system because it is that precious. In India, it has survived thousands of years of invasion. Well, at least 1,000 years. And it's had many before, but those are smaller. The big ones were the last 1,000 years. It has survived all of that because it is that important. Sanatan Dharma. So then Krishna addressed them in the midst of the great assembly. Everyone listened silently with rapt attention. Now the scene is taking place near these lakes. People have come from all over. They've set up their tents and they're now gathered outside and listening to Krishna. Krishna said, "Now our lives are indeed successful, for we have obtained life's ultimate goal, the audience of great yoga masters, which even the devas, the demigods, only rarely obtain." See, these great yoga masters, these great transcendentalists, spiritual masters, it is not easy to see them. It is not easy to find them. That's what Krishna is pointing out. This is the ultimate goal of life. Not for Krishna, but because they are the vehicle that helps us get to God. These evolved beings show us the path. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you want to learn the truth, just approach a spiritual master. Surrender unto him. Be willing to hear submissively. Render service to such a person because he has seen the truth. He can teach you because he has seen the truth. He's not a believer in the truth. He is not espousing a philosophy from some book. He has experienced it. He has seen it. He has felt it. He knows it deeply in every cell of his being, and now he can impart that truth unto you. This is called an acharya, a person who has realized, self-realized. In the purport, it is written, the demigods, the devas, enjoy great privileges as administrators of the universe. So many people say there's many gods in Hinduism. No, there aren't. There are many devas. There are many demigods. They're very highly empowered beings, but they are no different than you and me, except that they have done tremendous spiritual practices, and through those spiritual practices been elevated to the place where they are now managing the affairs of the universe. So he says, the demigods enjoy great privileges as administrators of the universe, yet they rarely see such sages as Narada and Vyas. How much rarer then must it be for earthly kings and mere cowherd men and women to see them. Here Sri Krishna identifies himself with the kings and others who had assembled at Samantak Panchaka and speaks on their behalf. Krishna continues, how is it that people who are not very austere and who recognize God only in his deity form in the temple can now see you? See, these rishis, these sages, these evolved beings, they perform a lot of tapasya, a lot of austerity. Austerity means to really discipline and control the mind, the body, and the senses. If you want to get anywhere in life, these things are important. So for example, some people, you'll hear from many successful business people that they get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. That's an austerity, right? That they avoid taking certain intoxicants or alcohol or any such things, or that they exercise, or that they perform a very disciplined life. That is an austerity. Now take that 1,000,000 times more, and you have the austerities that these people perform, these rishis. They might sit and meditate out in the snow. They might fast for months on end. They might live on air. They might do so many. These are all austerities. And in those, they will meditate. Because you may think, oh, it's impossible to do. But no, when you are able to meditate properly, then such austerities become possible. And they feel like nothing. For someone who has fasted, you know that it's difficult the first day or two. But by the time you get to gate 3 and 4 and 5, it's blissful. It doesn't feel painful at all. So that's how it is with austerities. When they're done with intention and done with a sense of purpose, they can be very powerful. So the question Krishna is asking is, how is it that people who are not very austere, these average kings and, the ladies and men who are gathered out here, these people are not very austere. They're used to enjoying their senses, having a comfortable life, and they think that God is only in his deity form in the temple. So they think God is in the temple, just like everybody thinks that God is in their church or mosque or temple or whatever else. That is a neophyte. That's a beginner. The advanced person knows that God is everywhere and in everyone, and yet exists as a being separate from this entire universe and the spiritual world. So he says, How is it that people who are not very austere and who recognize God only in his deity form in the temple can now see you, such highly evolved beings, touch you, inquire from you, bow down to you, worship your feet, and serve you in other ways? Mere bodies of water are not the real sacred places of pilgrimage. So, people go to the Ganga, they go to the Yamuna. These are considered very sacred rivers, and people go there for pilgrimage. So he says, mere bodies of water are not the real sacred places of pilgrimage, nor are mere images of earth and stone the true worshipable deity. You see in the temple, there are deities made of earth and stone, marble or whatever else. These deities or these rivers or these holy places purify one only after a very long time. But saintly sages purify one immediately upon being seen. See, this is the power of these highly evolved beings. In the purport is written, the personality of Godhead is absolute. Krishna is absolute, which means that any representation of him, whether manifested in stone, paint, or sound, or any other authorized medium, is none different from his original form in the spiritual world. So in other words, God and God's form, such as the deity, are none different. God and God's name are none different. When you utter his name, Krishna, then that is no different than being in front of him, being in his presence. You will feel it if you chant on a regular basis in kirtan or in japa, and you chant his name, you will experience this immense peace, this immense joy within yourself. However, he says, demigods, devas, are not absolute. They are jiva, or infinitesimal spirit souls, just like you and me. And thus, forms that represent them, deities that represent them, are not identical with them. Worship of demigods gives only limited benefit to those who lack transcendental faith in the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says those who have small intelligence worship the demigods, the devas. There are many devas in charge of many aspects of the universe, and people worship them so they can get some kind of result from them. They usually want some kind of wealth, they want something to be taken care of. Not everyone goes to Krishna. And the reason is that Krishna asks for everything. He asks you to surrender yourself, to give all of yourself. But one who gives all of themselves to him, he gives all of himself to them. That's the great blessing there. But people don't value that. They value getting wealth. They value getting, a beautiful husband or wife. They value getting, the school, the results of their kids in school coming out really well, or some such thing. Someone's in hospital and sick. They value getting that person well. That's important, and I agree it's important. But that's not the goal of life. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to discover God, is to be able to surrender to him, is to be able to fall in love with him. And for that, you go to Krishna, because he is the source of love. Radha and Krishna, they are the original beloved, the original soulmates. They are the source of love. And there is only one religion on earth that matters, and that is love. And whatever religion does not talk about love, and does not teach love, and does not inspire love, is meaningless. Whatever rituals you practice, whatever offerings you make, whatever practices you have, they're all good. But if they're without love, they're meaningless. They'll give you some discipline, they'll give you some austerity, but they will not give you God. The currency that you need to purchase God is love. And what is the quality of that love? It needs to be unmotivated, uninterrupted. Then it is pure love. See? That's not easy. Because you haven't seen him, you haven't met him, so you don't know. But you can see him, you can meet him through these words, through his name, through kirtan, that is chanting and singing his name, through the deity form, And gradually, just by hearing about him and seeing these representations of him, you will absolutely fall in love with him. So then it says here, on the other hand, great Vaishnava saints like Vyas and Narad and the four Kumaras are always absorbed in Krishna. And thus they are veritable moving tirthas or places of pilgrimage. So they say, like there are these places of pilgrimage we're talking about, very sacred spots on this earth, especially in India, you have many of them. But he says, those highly evolved beings, those sages, who are always absorbed in God consciousness and Krishna consciousness, they carry him within their heart, and they are therefore moving places of pilgrimage. They're moving around, and they are therefore moving places of pilgrimage. Even a moment's association with them, especially by hearing their glorification of the Supreme Lord, can deliver one from all material entanglement. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Koi, Lava Matra Sadhu Sange Sarva Siddhi Hoy. This is a statement by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu where he says that even by a moment's association with a sadhu, with a pure devotee of God, one can become free from all material entanglement. Lava Matra means even for 1 second. Sarva Siddhi Hoy. You get all the siddhis that yogis try to get through so many years of meditation and practice. So as King Yudhishthira once said to Vidura, devotees like yourself are verily holy places personified because you carry the Supreme Godhead within your heart. You turn every place you go into place of pilgrimage. This is the power of an highly evolved being. Krishna continued, neither the demigods controlling fire, the sun, the moon, the stars, nor those in charge of the elements, earth, water, air, ether, actually remove the sins of their worshippers, who continue to see in terms of dualities. See, the symptom of someone who gets free from karma, free from sin, is that you begin to see, you no longer see in terms of duality. This is the freedom from your mind, freedom from the bondage of this earth. How do you recognize a person like that? Bhagavad Gita defines it. Such a person sees everything, whether that be a dog or a dog eater, whether it be stone or it be dirt. He sees it all as the same. I'm sorry, I said stone or dirt. No, I mean gold or dirt. He sees them all as the same. That person has gone beyond duality, beyond heat and cold, beyond right and wrong, beyond good and bad. That is the power of a saintly person, that they are no longer stuck in the mind. The mind interprets everything and turns it into positive, negative, good, bad, right, wrong, and therefore duality. Right? Ichcha, dvesha. I like this, I don't like this. I hate this, or I dislike this, or I love this. But when you go beyond that, because those two things, this positive, negative, this right, wrong, this duality, is what binds you to the world. Dvanda mohena bharata. This dvanda, this duality, gets you into the moha, the illusion of the world. To get free of that, that is the symptom of the enlightened being, or a wise being, or an evolved being. Or even as you go on this path, you will experience this starting to happen with you. You will no longer care. You will no longer too much like something or too much dislike something. You will find yourself becoming equanimous. So he's saying here the worshippers of the devas or the demigods, the symptom to know that they are not evolving spiritually is because they continue to see in terms of duality. But wise sages destroy one's sins even when respectfully served for even a few moments. In the purport it is written, an immature or neophyte devotee of Krishna may think that only the deity in the temple is divine and may see everything else as material. Nonetheless, because he recognizes Krishna's supreme position, such a devotee is better than materialistic worshippers of the devas or demigods, and he thus deserves a degree of respect. It is also pointed out here that the association with advanced sages, either directly or by hearing their instructions, is recommended in this verse for one who wishes to advance in spiritual life. A neophyte devotee may be free, neophyte means a beginner, who may be free from the more obvious sins of violence against innocent creatures and against his own body. So, for example, may not be eating meat, may not be committing violence against his own body, for example, by taking alcohol or other things that are harmful to the body and mind. But even such a person, though they have given up practices that are harmful to themselves or others, still that person can become very advanced on the devotional path. But he must contend with the subtler contaminations of false pride, disrespect towards respectable Vaishnavas or evolved sadhus, and lack of compassion for suffering creatures. So these points are really important here. What are the subtler? You may give up the more gross contaminations. You may give up and say, oh, I'm a vegetarian. Oh, I only eat healthy foods. Oh, I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't do any of these things that are harmful to the body and mind. Nice, very good. That is important. That is very important. That is the most important place to be as a human being. But there are more subtle contaminations. And those are mentioned here as false pride, ahankar. This is a very risky one. This is one that we all fall into. If somebody likes you, false pride will come in easily. If you're successful at your work, false pride will easily come into you. If you are appreciated and valued for something that you do, even if that be charity, false pride can easily come in. You see how easy it is. And then it says the next thing, disrespect towards respectable Vaishnavas or devotees. So that is, when you see a sadhu, you see someone who is evolved, and you disrespect them, that becomes an offense. And that hampers and dampens and messes up your spiritual progress. And then he mentions the third item, lack of compassion for suffering creatures. It is the quality of a evolved being that as you evolve, you develop more and more compassion for all living beings. If that's not happening, you're not evolving. If you're becoming more indifferent, you're becoming more callous, then that is not the sign of spiritual evolution. That is the sign of, more of a perhaps more hateful attitude, or I don't like these people, so I don't want to hang out with them. But no, compassion is a very important sign that you are evolving spiritually. The best remedy for these symptoms of immaturity is to hear from and honor pure Vaishnavas, pure devotees, pure lovers of God, and to assist them in working to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. One who identifies his self as this body, composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image of land or land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water or land over there, but who never identifies himself with or feels kinship with or worships or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth, such a person is no better than a cow or an ass, meaning a donkey. He's saying, when you are stuck in this material way of thinking that this body is me, or that this family is eternally mine or permanently mine, till death do us part or whatever else, then you are caught up in a vicious cycle that you will not be able to, because even if you think that the holy place or the temple or the church or the whatever, that this is the place where God resides, then you have not made spiritual advancement. And if you have not come to know yourself, and if you have not come to experience God within yourself and all around you, you have not advanced. Such a person is no better than a cow or a donkey, meaning you're at the very base level, just beginning. And there's nothing wrong in that. But we need to evolve, we need to grow, and these are symptoms that are being pointed out to us so that we know how we're progressing. Now the sages, hearing such unfathomable words from the unlimitedly wise Sri Krishna, they remained silent, their minds bewildered. For some time the sages pondered or the Supreme Lord's behavior, which resembled that of a subordinate living being. They concluded that he was acting this way to instruct the people in general. Thus they smiled and spoke to him, he who was the spiritual master of the universe. The great sages said, "Your power of illusion has totally bewildered us." So all these words, he's bewildering them with the illusion of his words. Because he's acting as a human being, but he's not. The most exalted, we who are the most exalted knowers of the truth and leaders among the universal creators, how amazing is the behavior of the Supreme Lord. He covers himself with his human-like activities and pretends to be subject to superior control. So he's acting as if we are in control of him, whereas he is in control of us. Indeed, the human-like pastimes of the Almighty are simply a pretense. Meditate on this. All the pastimes we've been reading about Krishna. In fact, through the entire Bhagavatam, where he has come in different incarnations. And then he comes as Krishna. He's come as Rama before that. He's come as Varaha. He's come as Narsingha. Various incarnations, right? And finally here is Krishna. He says all of these are simply a pretense. He's acting a role, a part, to engage with his devotees, to bring the path of Dharma, to annihilate the miscreants, the troublemakers. Effortlessly, he alone sends forth from his self his variegated creation, maintains it, and then swallows it up again. Listen to this. He sends, so his creation emanates from him, right? This creation full of varieties. He maintains it and then dissolves it again. It is said Mahavishnu is lying down and we are part of his dream. And as he breathes out, the universes are created. Millions and billions of universes are created. And as he breathes in, all of them are annihilated. In our time, billions of years have passed. In his time, it's one breath, one inhalation, one exhalation. And he does all this without becoming entangled, just as the element earth takes on many names and forms in various transformations. So like earth can be taken and made into a building. It can be taken and made into any number of structures, right? Earth can also be this body because you've eaten food that came from the earth. So therefore this body is an accumulation of earth. So earth can take many forms, but the earth remains what it is. The waves in the ocean take forms and then they go back into the ocean. The same with earth, the same with God. Everything emanates from him, but he never becomes entangled. He is never affected by karma. He is never affected by the ups and downs of this world. Nonetheless, at suitable times, you assume, he said, telling Krishna, you assume the pure mode of goodness, Shuddha Sattva, to protect your devotees and punish the wicked. Thus you, the Supreme Godhead, maintain the eternal path of the Vedas by enjoying your pleasure pastimes. So, on top of all this, Krishna comes here for his own pleasure pastimes, to have fun. In fact, through all of those activities, he's just having fun. Whether that is that he's come to rescue the boy Prahlad from his father Hiranyakashipu, and he's come as a half lion, half man. He is having fun. When he comes here and does battle with Kamsa, and he does with all the various other people that try to kill him, he's having fun because he's the Supreme Lord. He's undefeatable. Yet he comes as a baby and he lets these people try to kill him and attack him, or even later when he gets older, and he defeats them. But first he likes to engage in a battle. Same with Ram and Ravana. Engaged in this mighty battle. He could have killed him right away, but what would be the fun of that? There has to be a good, nice, juicy battle. Then finally he'll win. The Vedas are your spotless heart, they say to Krishna. Vedas, the texts of knowledge, through the wisest wisdom that was ever compiled on this earth, which is there from the beginning of creation. They are your spotless heart, and through them one can perceive by means of austerity and study and self-control, one can perceive the manifest, is the world that you see around you. You can perceive it more clearly and you can see what it is, and the unmanifest, that which is spirit, that the spiritual energy that is within the world. You can perceive both the manifest, the unmanifest, and the pure transcendental existence. Okay? All of that can be perceived by austerity, study, and self-control through the Vedas. Right? Therefore, O Supreme Brahman, they refer to him as the Supreme Brahman. Brahman is the energy of the universe. When people talk about the light, that is the Brahma Jyoti. He is the Supreme Brahman, Krishna. You honor the members of the Brahminical community, for they are perfect agents by which one can realize you through the evidence of the Vedas. See, the point of the Brahmins, the priests, is to teach the Vedas. Yajan, Yajan, Patan, Patan, Dan, Pratigraha. There are 6 activities for the Brahmins that they are supposed to engage in yajna. Yajan, Yajan. So they're supposed to engage in yajna and teach others how to do yajna or sacrifice or how to make offerings to God, worship God. Patan, Patan, which means to teach the Vedas and to keep learning more. And Dan, they're supposed to receive in charity and give in charity. Only keep the bare minimum that they need for themselves. So he says, you are the foremost worshipper of the Brahmins. Today, our birth, education, austerity, and vision have all become perfect because we have been able to associate with you, who are the goal of all saintly persons. Indeed, you yourself are the ultimate supreme blessing. So these saintly people all begin as Brahmins and priests and then gradually elevate themselves further and further and further. Let us offer obeisances, respects unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the infinitely intelligent Paramatma or Super Soul, who is present in everyone's heart, this Paramatma, who has disguised his greatness through his mystic Yoga Maya. We are all in Maya, in illusion, in this world of illusion, believing that this is who I am, this house belongs to me, this family belongs to me, this is our Maya, this is our illusion. But Krishna, when he does his activities, they are under Yoga Maya. That is a spiritual energy that covers the vision of the people around him so they don't realize who he is. So many people around that time saw Krishna. Only a few actually knew who he is. Neither these kings nor even the Vrishnis, who enjoy your intimate association. So Vrishnis is Krishna's family members. Neither these kings who are present here at this assembly here, nor even your family members, the Vrishnis, who enjoy your intimate association, know you as the soul of all existence, the force of time. You are Kala, the force of time, and the supreme controller, Param Ishwara. You've heard the term Paramishwar. Paramishwar means the supreme controller, one who is the controller of everything. So he says your family members and even the people assembled here, they do not know who you really are. For them, you are covered by the curtain of Maya. A sleeping person imagines an alternate reality in his dream and forgets his waking identity, which is distinct from the dream. Similarly, the senses of one whose consciousness is bewildered by illusion. Similarly, the senses of one whose consciousness is bewildered by illusion perceive only the names and forms of material objects. Listen very carefully. In a dream, right, we see an alternate reality and we think that's real. And we forget our waking identity, right? Similarly, the senses of one whose consciousness is bewildered by illusion, by the Maya, the illusion of this world, one who is bewildered by this, perceives only the names and forms of material objects. In other words, you're only able to see that which is through your senses, names and forms of material objects. But such a person therefore loses his memory and cannot know you, Krishna, cannot know you. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshva avastitaha. Krishna says there, by me in my unmanifest form, this entire universe is pervaded. So by his unmanifest form, it means by his energy. That's his unmanifest form. Right? There's a lot of people who want to worship the energy of God. They don't want to worship God. There's a being out there. They're scared of that because they've been told this God is supposed to be someone who punishes them and sends them to hell. So they're like, no, 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 no. We don't want nothing to do with such a being. But that is all lies. That is all nonsense. God does not punish people. God does not send people to hell. That is an insult to God, the way they have presented him. What they're saying here is, Krishna is saying is, I am present everywhere. You can't escape me. I am in every atom of the creation, in my unmanifest form. That's what that means. This entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me. You are in him. Just like a fish is in water, right? So he is the water and we are the fish. Like he is the ocean and we are the little tiny fish that are swimming in the ocean. So he pervades the entire universe. That's why he's saying, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. He is in us. Yes, that is also true, but he's saying this in a different way. He says, behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everything, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. So he's making a distinction. Although I am everywhere, although I am in everything, and although I am in everyone, still I am separate from it all, because I am not part of this cosmic manifestation. Right? For myself is the very source of creation. Now we may think of doing something, but there are so many impediments. So when we think of doing things in this world, there's so many impediments, so many difficulties that happen. And sometimes it is not possible to do what we want. But when Krishna wants to do something, simply by his willing, everything is performed so perfectly that one cannot imagine how it is being done. Krishna explains that although he is the maintainer and sustainer of the entire material manifestation, he does not touch this material manifestation. Although he comes here, he is not affected by it in any way. It does not influence him in any way. He's not bewildered by it in any way. Simply by his supreme will, everything is created, everything is sustained, everything is maintained, and everything is ultimately annihilated. Now you'll see, if you've been following through Krishna's Leela, you will see all this to be true. All of this. That he's not affected by this world. That none of this world can really touch him. But he does play along. He does a lot of stuff for Leela, for pastimes. There is no difference between his mind and himself, because he is absolute or non-dual spirit. Simultaneously, he is present in everything, yet also exists as a person. He is different from this material manifestation, yet everything is resting in him. This is explained here as Yogam Aishwaram, his mystic power. So yes, if you are thinking that, how is this possible? How can you be in everything and yet everything is resting on you? It doesn't make any sense. How can you just think something and it will just happen? How can you be different? So all these things that are being talked about may seem impossible for us, and they are. We are not him. So they are impossible for us. But they are not impossible for him. And this is very important to understand, because there are so many people who are going around saying, oh, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. No, you're not. You're a tiny ansha. Ansha means a tiny atomic or subatomic particle of God. That's it. And yes, you do have the qualities of God just as an atomic particle, just like a tiny little part of my skin has all the qualities as the rest of my body, and the sense atomically in terms of the DNA. Yes, it's the same. Whether you touch this part of my hand or that part of my hand or my toe, it all has the same DNA, right? So in the same sense, we're of the same stuff as God. We are not God. My DNA, my atomic particle of my skin is not my entire body. It's only a tiny little, this is the the microcosm. And he is the macrocosm. We are the microcosm. He is the macrocosm. This is a microcosm. My body would be the macrocosm to that, right? And atom versus the entirety. So then the sages continue, today we have directly seen your feet, which are the source of the holy Ganges river, which washes away volumes of sins. Perfected yogis can at best meditate upon your feet within their hearts, but only those who render you wholehearted devotional service or bhakti can vanquish the soul's covering, the material mind, and attain you as their final destination. Therefore, kindly show mercy on us. We are your devotees. So they are showing you here that the ultimate path is bhakti, the devotion, loving devotion to God. And one who devotes their life to God then reaps the result of God. What is your devotion? That you will attain in your life. If your devotion is comfort, then fine, you'll get comfort, whatever degree of comfort you'll get. But if your devotion, let's say, is your work, then you'll attain great success in that. But if your devotion is God, love of God, then you shall attain that. The sages then took leave and prepared to depart for their ashrams. They lived in their ashrams. Seeing what they were about to leave, Vasudeva, that's Krishna's father, approached the sages and bowing down to them and touching their feet, he spoke to them with carefully chosen words. Vasudeva, Krishna's father, birth father, said, obeisance to you, who are the residents of all the demigods, means all the demigods reside within you. Please hear me, O sages. Kindly tell us how one's karma can be counteracted by some additional practices or by further work. Here Vasudeva addresses the sages as the residents of all the demigods. His statement is confirmed in the Shruti mantras, which declare, whatever demigods exist, all reside in a Brahmin who knows the Veda. Sri Narad Muni said, O Brahmins, it is not so amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva, Krishna's father, has asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy. This is very important to understand. In the purport, it said, Srila Jiva Goswami comments, Sri Narad understood how Vasudeva, who was pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about karma yoga. Although he had already attained spiritual goals that even great yogis and sages cannot achieve. So what is that great goal he had achieved? He had achieved the goal of vatsalya, of love of God, parental love of God. And because of that, he had attained the highest levels of bhakti. However, he's asking as if he's a beginner on the path. And he's asking about karma yoga and about his sins and how can he annihilate those by some ritual or other. So these kind of statements, these kind of actions are there to teach us as we are progressing on the path. What can we do to purify ourselves? Therefore, these great souls, they act as if they are us so that they can lead by example. They can show us how we need to live through their example, not by lecturing us, but by guiding us through their actions. Narad was still concerned, Narad is the great sage, was still concerned that Vasudeva, Krishna's father, might create an awkward situation by treating Krishna as a mere child in the presence of all the other sages. To avoid this embarrassment, Narad took his opportunity to remind everyone present of Sri Krishna's absolute supremacy. Narad said, in this world, familiarity breeds contempt. For one who lives on the banks of the Ganges river is known to purify, and that by simply bathing in it, all your karma, all your sins get washed off, right? But someone who lives on the banks of the Ganges tends to take it for granted. So he might travel to some other body of water to be purified. He's giving a hint here. Vasudeva, Krishna's father, lives with Krishna. He has direct association of the greatest being of all. There's nothing more elevated than that. And yet, he is referring to these other practices. So he's saying, familiarity breeds contempt. The Supreme Lord's awareness is never disturbed by time, by the creation and destruction of the universe, or by anything else, whether self-caused or external. But although the consciousness of the personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme, one without a second, is never affected by material distress, by the reactions of material work, or by the constant flow of nature's modes, ordinary persons nonetheless think that he is covered by material elements. just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds, snow, or an eclipse. So think about it. The sun is all pervading, right? And when the clouds come, we can't see it anymore. Or when snow comes, or when there's an eclipse, we can't see it. In the same way, when Krishna comes on this earth and he takes this human-like form, then people think of him as an ordinary person and they can't really conceive who he is, and they're not able to really distinguish. And those who are his parents and family and closest to him, they are covered by Yoga Maya, which then bewilders them to thinking that he's just an ordinary person, he's just their child. So it has been definitely concluded that work is counteracted by further work when one executes Vedic sacrifices as a means of worshipping Vishnu, Lord of all sacrifices, with sincere faith. I know this is pretty heavy, all of this today. We've been hearing a lot of stories up till now, but this is the way the Bhagavatam works. It works by giving us some stories and then giving us some heavy philosophy, and then back to some stories and then some heavy philosophy, sort of mixes it back and forth. So today we're on the heavy part, which is all the philosophical heavy stuff. I've kept it separate so that you can digest it slowly. Maybe watch it again. In the purport it is written, things of this world are inevitably destroyed by one means or other. Time itself causes the eventual decay of every created being or every created thing, a fruit, for instance, which may grow ripe, but then either rot or be eaten. Some things like lightning destroy themselves as soon as they are manifest, while other things are destroyed suddenly by external agents, such as, for example, if you had a clay pot and then you hit it with a hammer. It's an external event occurring. Even in living bodies, there is a constant flux of various qualities that are destroyed and replaced by others. For example, youth gets destroyed and then turns into old age. Health gets destroyed and turns into sickness. So everything is constantly changing in this world. In contrast to all of this, Krishna's awareness is never disrupted by anything. Only out of ignorance could one imagine him to be an ordinary human being subject to material conditions. Mortal beings are covered by their entanglement in karmic activities and their consequent happiness and distress. So karmic activities lead to two things, either happiness or distress. You do some action that produces happiness. You do another action that produces distress. This is constantly going on, and we are caught in this cycle. But the Supreme Lord cannot be covered by what are in fact his own expansions. So this world is his expansion. It cannot cover him. The sun light is spreading out from the sun. But the clouds, although they appear to have covered the sun is never covered. The sun is still out there shining away in all its glory. The sun never stops shining. It is always shining. Even if it goes away from our sight, it is still shining. Even if it is covered by an eclipse, it is still shining. The sun never stops shining. The sun never stops being the sun. In the same way, God never stops being God. He is never covered by this material world. It explains here, just as the sun is the source of clouds, snow, and eclipses, and therefore it cannot be covered by them, though it may momentarily appear that it is. Learned authorities who see through the eye of scripture have demonstrated that this, the Vedic sacrifice to Vishnu, is the easiest method of subduing the agitated mind and attaining liberation. That is a sacred duty which brings joy to the heart. This is the most auspicious path for a religious householder of the twice-born order to selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. So he's talking about the glories of performing this ritual that they're about to perform, which is in glorification of Vishnu. So they're going to perform like a fire ceremony and so on. In the purport, it says the ritual karma or act of Vedic sacrifice is particularly meant for attached householders, those who are already in an elevated state of Krishna consciousness like Vasudeva himself. They need only cultivate their faith through the practices of bhakti, such as associating with devotees, worshipping his deity form, chanting his name, reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So for when you've come to a little higher stage, you don't need to do those other practices of ritual. It's not so important. But in the beginning stages, it is important. An intelligent person should learn to renounce his desire for wealth by performing sacrifices and acts of charity. He should learn to renounce his desire for wife and children by experiencing family life. And he should learn to renounce his desire for promotion to higher planets in his next life. So he's saying, it is by going through something that you begin to experience a sense of detachment for it. By owning stuff, you eventually get detached from it. You realize, I have a house. I'm no longer attached to it. I have a car. I have all this stuff. Yes, but it's not a big deal anymore. When you didn't have it, you had a great desire for it. Once you have it, you lose that desire. Similarly, the idea is to gradually renounce one's desire by experiencing the thing. Right? You've experienced it. Now you've had that. Now let it go. Don't keep holding on to that. Because the more you hold on to it, the more entangled you get in this world. The more you can let go of the world, the more free you become from the world. O saintly Vasudev, by studying the effects of time, self-controlled sages who have thus renounced their attachment to household life go to the forest to perform austerities. In our time, we don't necessarily go to the forest. We'll go to a place like Vrindavan or some holy place, and we'll practice renunciation there, trying to become detached from the home. That is the practice of Varnashram system, especially in the Vanaprastha, or the later stages of life. A member of the twice-born classes is born with three kinds of debts. So that is, twice-born is usually the Brahmins, but it can also be the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas who can be also can be given that kind of initiation, the sacred thread initiation. When one gets that, one is known to be twice-born. And those three debts that are, especially for the Brahmins, are the debts owed to the demigods, to the sages, and the forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying the scriptures, and begetting children, he will fall down in a hellish condition. So it says in the Shruti that a Dvija, a twice-born person, has three. So twice-born means that you first are born from your parents, and the second time is when you're initiated by your guru. That is your second birth. You know how they say Christianity, you're born again. Well, this has been going on for thousands of years. Such a person is called Dvija, which means twice-born. Born first from the parents, then born by initiation by the guru. Gives you the mantra. You practice that and gradually evolve. That is the process of being twice born. So he says there are three debts that a Brahmin has, and that they need to practice to repay the debt to the sages. Why sages? Because they gave the wisdom by doing adhyan. Adhyan means studying the scriptures. Debt to the devas. Why? Because the devas gave you all the earth and all the stuff. Actually, Krishna gives it to you, but they are the one. Devas are in charge. So they have given you all the resources on this earth, including this body, the food you eat, the water you drink, everything else. They're doing it under the direction of Krishna, but they are the ones in charge. So one must give thanks to them as well. Or you can give thanks to Krishna, and that covers everything. So one must, his debt to the devas by yagya, or sacrifice. And then you have the debt to the forefathers, and you repay that by begetting children. So that's why there's always a big emphasis, especially in India. You must get children. When are you getting married? When are you going to have babies? And that's not only because they're just trying to, propagate the family or the dynasty, but it is also because that is the debt to the forefathers. They gave birth to you, and you give birth to the next generation. And then Narad continues, he says, but you, O magnanimous soul Vasudev, Krishna's father, are already free from two of your debts, those to the sages and the forefathers. Now absolve yourself of your debt to the demigods by executing Vedic sacrifice. In this way, free yourself completely of debt and renounce all material shelter. Without doubt, you have previously worshipped Sri Hari, or Krishna, the master of all worlds. Both you and your wife must have perfectly worshipped him with supreme devotion, since he has accepted the role of your son. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti paraphrases the sage's mood as follows. We have answered you, who questioned us in the manner of ordinary discourse, in the same ordinary way. In truth, however, since you are the eternally liberated Father of the Supreme Lord, Neither worldly customs nor injunctions of scripture have any authority over you. This is an easier way to understand it. After hearing these statements of the sages, generous Vasudev bowed his head to the ground and, praising them, requested them to become his priests. Thus requested, the sages engaged the pious Vasudev in performing fire sacrifices at that holy place of Kurukshetra, according to strict religious principles and with most excellent ritual arrangements. When Vasudeva was about to be initiated for the sacrifice, the Vrishnis, Krishna's family, came to the initiation pavilion after bathing and putting on fine clothes and garlands of lotuses. The other kings also came, elaborately ornamented, as well as all their joyful queens, who wore jeweled lockets around their necks and who were also clad in fine garments. The royal wives were anointed with sandalwood paste and carried auspicious items for the worship. Various musical instruments resounded, male and female dancers danced, and poets recited glorifications. Sweet-voiced singers sang, accompanied by their husbands. After Vasudev's eyes had been decorated with kajal, black cosmetic, and his body smeared with fresh butter, the priests initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him with his 18 wives with sacred water. Encircled by his wives, he resembled the regal moon encircled by stars. Vasudeva received initiation along with his wives, who wore silk saris and were adorned with bangles, necklaces, and ankle bells and earrings. With his body wrapped in a deerskin, Vasudeva shone splendidly. So you may have wondered, Vasudeva had 18 wives? Oh my gosh. Today's time, you don't hear of such things. But yes, there was quite a bit of that going on. And you have the reverse as well. You have Draupadi with her 5 husbands. So you have polygamy and polyandry, both being practiced at that time. Though polyandry was not that common, it did happen. It was the case that men often engaged as warriors or in various professions where they got killed. And so there were often less men and more women. And so the practice of marrying more than one wife became more popular so that those women could be protected and taken care of, especially by men who were wealthy and who could support them and who could take care of them. And Vasudeva was the son of Ugrasen, King Ugrasen, so such a prince. And he was Krishna's father, so they had all the opulences possible. Vasudeva's priests and the officiating members of the assembly, dressed in silk dhotis and jeweled ornaments, looked so effulgent that they seemed to be standing in the sacrificial arena of Indra, the king of heaven. At that time, Balaram and Krishna, the supreme lords of all living entities, shone forth with great majesty in the company of their respective sons, wives, and other family members who were expansions of their opulences, performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifice according to the proper regulations. Then, at the proper time and according to scripture, Vasudeva remunerated the priests by decorating them with precious ornaments, though they were already richly adorned, and offering them valuable gifts of cows and land. After supervising the ritual, the great Brahmin sages bathed in Lord Parshuram's lake and with the sponsor of the sacrifice, Vasudeva, who led them. His sacred bath complete, Vasudeva joined with his wives in giving the jewelry and clothes they had been wearing to the professional reciters. Vasudeva then put on new garments, after which he honored all classes of people by feeding everyone, even the dogs. With opulent gifts, he honored his relatives, including all their wives and children. So it was a lot of giving of gifts and jewelry and expensive things to everybody, so that everyone went away feeling very abundant. The royalty from various kingdoms, the officiating members and priests, the witnessing demigods, human spirits, forefathers, basically making offerings to all of them. Then, taking permission from Krishna, the various guests departed as they all chanted the glories of Vasudeva's yagya, or sacrifice. The Yadus, Krishna's family, were all embraced by their friends, close family members and relatives. Their hearts melting with affection, these and the other guests left for their kingdoms, their progress slowed by the pain of separation. Now we come to the residents of Vrindavan, King Nanda and his people from Vrindavan who were there. King Nanda showed his affection for his relatives, the Yadus, by remaining with them a little longer, together with his cowherd people. During his stay, Krishna, Balaram, King Ugrasena, and the others honored him with especially opulent worship. Having so easily crossed over the vast ocean of his ambition, Vasudeva, Krishna's father, felt fully satisfied. In the company of his many well-wishers, he took Nanda by the hand and addressed him as follows. Vasudeva said to Nanda, King Nanda is the one who raised Krishna. He and his wife, Yashoda, they had raised Krishna when he was a baby, all the way till he was 11 years old. My dear brother, Nanda, God himself has tied the knot called affection, which tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even great heroes and mystics find it very difficult to free themselves from it. Indeed, the Supreme Lord must have created the bonds of affection between us, for such exalted saints as you have never stopped showing matchless friendship toward us ingrates, although it has never been properly reciprocated. So Vasudeva here is talking about the fact that they haven't gone to meet their relatives and friends in Vrindavan, but those relatives and friends have come here to meet them at Kurukshetra. So he feels that we haven't honored your friendship. We are ingrates. But you have never stopped showing us your affection. You have never stopped showing us matchless friendship, although it has never been properly reciprocated. Previously, dear brother, we did nothing to benefit you because we were unable to. Yet even now that you are present before us, our eyes are so blinded by the intoxication of material good fortune that we continue to ignore you. Keep in mind that Vasudeva, now, earlier, when Krishna was born, he was imprisoned in a jail, and he was there for almost 15 years. But now, they're living in Dwarka. Krishna, Balaram, their father Vasudeva, and King Ugrasena, they're all living in beautiful palaces in Dwarka. So they have gone on to great material good fortune, and they have not been paying attention to their friends in Vrindavan who have been suffering without them, especially without Krishna and Balaram. Then he says to Nanda, O most respectful one, may a person who wants the highest benefit in life never gain kingly opulence, for it leaves him blind to the needs of his own family and friends. So he's expressing great humility here. The purport is said, it is of course out of his deep humility that Vasudeva is berating himself, but his condemnation of opulence is in general valid. Earlier in this 10th canto, Narad Muni delivered a stinging criticism of Nala Kuvera and Manigriva. They were the two trees that Krishna destroyed when he was a baby. The two wealthy sons of Kuber, the sons of the treasurer of heaven. These two boys, intoxicated by pride and liquor, had failed to offer proper respects to the sage Narad when he happened upon them as they were sporting naked in the Mandakini river with some young women. Seeing them in their shameful condition, Narad had said, among all the attractions of material enjoyment, the attraction of riches bewilders one's intelligence more than having beautiful bodily features, taking birth in an aristocratic family, and being learned. When one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, so wealth without proper spiritual education, without wisdom, when one is uneducated but falsely puffed up by wealth, the result is that one engages his wealth in enjoying wine, women, and gambling. And these things basically drag you down spiritually. His heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy, Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda had shown him. Nanda too was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. During the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce. So now as the days passed by, Nanda would say, I'll be leaving later today. And then he wouldn't go. And I'll be leaving tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months, honored by the Yadus, Krishna's family. After settling that he would leave first thing in the morning, Nanda would then decide, I'll go later today. And then in the afternoon would come and he would say, I think I'll just stay till tomorrow. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests one possible reason for his procrastination. Nanda secretly intended to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan, Braja, and did not want to break Vasudeva's heart. Remember last time we talked about that. The gopis wanted to be able to take Krishna on his chariot and drag him all the way with ropes, take him all the way to Vrindavan. And that's why they now celebrate the Rath Yatra festival. But you see, Nanda did not want to break Vasudev's heart. Vasudeva is Krishna's birth father, and Nanda is the one who is his foster father who raised him. Thus his indecision continued for 3 months. Then after Vasudeva, Ugrasen, Krishna, Uddhava, Balaram and others had fulfilled his desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen and varieties of priceless household furnishings, King Nanda accepted all these gifts and departed with his family members and the residents of Vrindavan. But there's more to it. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, at the end of the 3 months, King Nanda approached Krishna and told him, "My dear son, for one drop of perspiration from your divine face, I am ready to give up countless lives. Let us leave now for Vrindavan, Braja. I cannot spend any more time here." Then he went to Vasudeva, Krishna's father, and said, "My dear friend, please send Krishna to Vrindavan." He then requested King Ugrasena, that's Vasudeva's father. So Krishna's father, and Krishna's grandfather now. King Ugrasena, "Please order my friend to do this. If you refuse, I will have to drown myself here in Parshuram's lake. Just watch. If you do not believe me, we people of Vrindavan came to this holy place not to gain some piety on the occasion of the solar eclipse, but to get Krishna back or die." Hearing these desperate words from Nanda, Vasudeva and the others tried to pacify him with valuable gifts. Well versed in the arts of diplomacy, Vasudeva consulted with his most trustworthy advisors and then satisfied Nanda by telling him, "My dearest friend, O King of Braja, of Vrindavan, it is of course true that none of you can live without Krishna, and how can we allow you to kill yourselves? Therefore, by all means, I must send Krishna back to Dwarka. Then I'm going to send him back home to Dwarka. Then the very next day, without trying to obstruct him in any way, I will let him leave for Vrindavan. This I swear to you 1,000 times over. After all, how can he who came here with Krishna go home without him? We who came here, with Krishna, how can we go home without him? We've got to take him back first. What will people say about us? You are a great scholar in all matters, so please forgive me for making this request to you." Then King Ugrasena addressed Nanda, "My dear master of Vrindavan, I bear witness to Vasudeva's statement and take this solemn vow. I will send Krishna back to Vrindavan, even if I have to do it by force." Then Krishna, joined by Uddhava and Balaram, came to Nanda in private. Krishna said, "Dear father, if I go directly to Vrindavan today, leaving aside all these family members, the Vrishnis, they will die from the pain of separation from me. Then many thousands of enemies will come to annihilate them. Since I am omniscient, I know what is inevitably going to happen to me. Listen and I will describe it to you. After returning to Dwarka, I will receive an invitation from Yudhishthira and will go to Indraprastha to participate in his Rajasuya sacrifice. There I will kill Shishupal, after which I will again return to Dwarka and kill Shalva. Next, I will travel to a place just south of Mathura to save you by killing Dantavakra. I will then go to Vrindavan, see all my old friends, and again sit in your lap with great pleasure." So Krishna knows all those events in advance. "Indeed, with great happiness, I will spend the rest of my life with you. God has written this fate on my forehead, and it has been written on your foreheads that until the day I return, you must tolerate separation from me. Neither of our destinies can possibly be changed, so please find the courage to leave me here for now and go home to Vrindavan. And if in the meantime you, my dear parents, and you, my beloved friends, are distressed by unavoidable fate, then whenever you wish to feed me some wonderful delicacy, or play some game with me, or simply see me, just close your eyes, and I will appear before you to turn your torment into sky flowers and fulfill all your desires. I promise you this." Convinced by all these arguments that his son's happiness was of prime importance, Nanda accepted the gifts offered him and took his leave, accompanied by the Yadu's large army. Unable to withdraw their minds from Krishna's lotus feet, where they had surrendered them, Nanda and the cowherd men and women returned to Mathura. Their relatives having thus departed and seeing that the rainy season was approaching, the Vrishnis went to Dwarka. They told the people, so when they arrived back in Dwarka, they told the people of the city about the festive sacrifices performed by Vasudev and about everything else that had happened during their pilgrimage, especially how they had met with all their loved ones. So with that, we'll end for today. Thank you so much for your presence. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. And if you have any comments, please do write them in the chat, wherever you are. And I'll be glad to answer your questions. We're here every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, which is 5 Pacific Time. And I'll see you next week. Hare Krishna.